Less than 3 weeks after President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia announced the illegal annexation of Kherson and 3 other Ukrainian territories, there were growing signs on Monday that Russia's civilian administration in the strategic southern territory was crumbling, even as Ukrainian officials said Moscow's troops were preparing to stay and fight. Merchants in the regional capital of Kherson are refusing to be paid in Russian currency. Government offices have been emptied of essential equipment and civilians have been told by proxy officials loyal to the Kremlin to take documents, money, valuables, and clothes, and flee, according to Ukrainian officials, videos on social media, and accounts from Ukrainian activists who have spoken to residents. The reports were difficult to verify independently, because internet and other communication services in Kherson have been almost completely severed, in what Ukrainian activists said was a deliberate effort by Russian officials to thwart Kiev's military. But such moves would add to the evidence that Russia's civilian administration is proceeding with plans to abandon the city ahead of a possible counteroffensive by Ukrainian forces. There was, however, no evidence that Russian soldiers were preparing for a mass withdrawal, said General Kirillo Budanov, the head of Ukraine's military intelligence service. He added that the Kremlin proxy officials could be readying the city for urban combat. They are not preparing to exit now, General Budanov said in an interview with a Ukrainian news outlet, Ukrainska Pravda, published on Monday. They are preparing to defend. The account suggested chaotic conditions in Kherson, with the occupation administration in disarray and the humanitarian situation growing dire. General Budanov said the largest Russian bank operating in the city, Proxies, was withdrawing and clearing out the cash from its vaults. He also claimed that occupation officials were emptying hospitals of patients as part of a crazy information campaign, designed to show audiences in Russia that Moscow cares about civilians. In other words, they are creating the illusion that everything has gone, he said. At the same time, on the contrary, they are bringing in new military units there and preparing the streets of the city for defense. Located on the west bank of the Dnipro River, Kherson is the gateway to both Russian-held Crimea in the south and Ukraine's Black Sea ports to the west, including Odessa. Its loss would be a severe military and symbolic blow for Mr. Putin, who has rejected requests from his commanders on the ground that they be allowed to retreat from the city. While the billboards declaring "Kherson is forever with Russia" are still standing, local leaders loyal to the Kremlin said this weekend that all departments and ministries of civil administration must be moved across the Dnipro River to territory seen as safer from advancing Ukrainian forces. Occupation officials also said they would relocate as many as 60,000 civilians. Moscow claims that as many as 20,000 people have fled, but Ukrainian officials put the figure at closer to 1,000 and say that most are pro-Kremlin collaborators.